Welcome back to the show. I'm Jim White. We're so glad you're here with us for another episode of the program that's devoted to introducing you to the people who make the eats and drinks you love, and in some cases, the people who help us find great destination dining and places to stay when we're traveling, and other interesting information, such as that from Troy Dungan, our guest gourmet.
Hello there, Jim. Good to be here.
Welcome back. Now, you've been with us now for the fourth show, and we're going to concentrate on you. But are we living up to what we say with wining and dining, you think?
It's just been remarkable. Having a great time visiting with the chefs, with Tom Fleming, Stephen Piles, Danielle McPherson. I've been in good company as well as with you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's just such a pleasure and an honor to have you with us all month. And we're going to get into a show devoted to you, as I kind of intimated at the beginning, talking about all of your wonderful travel adventures.
Yep.
But also, we want to let people know about this fabulous new book that you've written called, now this is an interesting title, Jesus Makes Salsa by the Seashore.
Yes, as I told Tom Fleming a couple of weeks ago, restaurateurs would appreciate this because it actually has to do with the morning that Jesus invented fish tacos.
Yeah.
Which he did, but there's also a serious Bible study there. So I think God has a sense of humor. I hope so. But Jesus Makes Salsa by the Seashore is a Fresh Approach Bible study book. And if you want to buy it, I'd be happy if you do. But if you don't, borrow it from somebody.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna talk more about this and some of the other great chapters. And
thank you.
And who knew that for a wining and dining show, we'd be able to talk about Jesus making salsa by the seashore.
Absolutely.
But that's perfect. He just seems to fit in everywhere, doesn't he? And also on today's show, we're glad to have Vicki Briley-White back with us, doing another Savor the Flavor episode. What's coming up later in the show?
Well, you just never know where you're going to find your wine, so sometimes it's in a can.
Wine in a can. Okay. Well, we'll look forward to that. Troy, have you ever had wine in a can?
I have had wine in can, but I've not had wine in cans. No.
Okay. Now that's very interesting. Very interesting perspective. Yeah, I guess it's kind of the rage these days.
Yes, I've seen it in the stores. I haven't purchased any, and let's see what Vicki has to say about it.
Yeah, that'll be kind of fun. So we opened up by talking about Troy's book, Jesus Makes Salsa by the Seashore. I'm going to ask you to explain that a little bit, but your sense of humor is so evident in this book. Looking at some of the different sections, God's bar snacks is one of them.
Yep.
Spiritual speeding tickets is another. Drippy Christian faucets got my attention. But this is appropriate to say, talk a little bit about the genesis of this book and how it came together.
Well, I did a Bible study at Channel 8 for 8 years, and it's a long story how that came about. I doubt if that'd be possible now, but somehow management let me do this, so I guess God intended it to do that. And I had always threatened after that time to write a book of some of the Bible studies, and my bride, Janet, whom you both know, says she has the spiritual gift of discouragement. She said, who'd want to read that? So as I think you know, Jim, wives are here to keep us humble, and it works. But anyway, I eventually was enticed to write this book, and it's 52 of the Bible studies that I did on those Wednesdays at 1 o'clock in the conference room at Channel 8. They pretty much all have a humorous hook, but they're all serious Bible studies, and it was just a real pleasure to get to write that. So I do spend some time now speaking, promoting this book, and it's a real fun thing to be able to do.
Well, let's talk about this. Jesus invented or fish tacos.
Yes, indeed. It's in John 21 where it says breakfast by the sea in the Bible mostly, but it's resurrected Jesus on the shore. The guy's been fishing all night. I call them the guys.
Yeah.
And they didn't catch anything, but finally they hook up with him, and he says, drop the net on the other side of the boat. They catch all this fish. So Jesus says, bring that fish over here. Well, previously it said that Jesus had a fire on the shore, and he was cooking bread and fish.
Cooking fish, yeah.
Well, the thing is, if he told him to bring fish, and he already had fish, what's up with that?
Yeah.
Well, he said ichthus. That's what they were catching. Ichthus is the word for fish, and it's that fish symbol that's on the cover of this book. But what he was cooking was another Greek word, opsarion. Opsarion can mean fish, but if there is already fish present, then contextually go to the next definition, which is a sauce or a condiment. So he was making some sauce to put on that fish. And then it said he was cooking bread as well. Well, this is going to be unleavened bread cooking over a fire. So, you roll it over and you put it on this fish and the salsa. Jesus invented fish tacos. There's no two ways about this, folks. There's stuff in the Bible you probably never thought about.
That is funny. Okay, and God's bar snacks. I've got to know about this.
Bar snacks are salty, right?
Right.
They're going to encourage you to drink some more. We're supposed to be God's bar snacks. We're supposed to be salt and light. We're supposed to have, our Christianity is supposed to make people want what we have. See, I want what that guy's got, salty. God's bar snacks, that's what we are.
Okay. And then the drippy Christian faucets.
Yeah, you either got to be on or off. I mean, this is like lukewarm water. I spew that out of my mouth, right? Don't be a drippy Christian faucet.
And spiritual speeding tickets.
Oh, we've all gone over the speed limit a time or two, and you expect to be disciplined for that. And it tells us clearly several times in Proverbs, if God disciplines you, don't despise the discipline. God chastises them whom He loves. So, there's stuff going on in the Bible that's really fun, but you also stop, oh, wait, that also makes sense. I should be doing whatever it said.
Well, this seems like a very good introduction for people, because a lot of people look at things in the Bible and they say, I don't understand that. Too many these and thous, and they don't get any relevance to their life today. It appears that you're really giving people some understanding that they can relate to.
I hope so. That's the idea. It's a fairly basic study. I know just enough about Greek and Hebrew to be dangerous. And it works in that book. For instance, apsaria and vis-a-vis ichthys. So sometimes just little things like that. So, well, I didn't understand that, but now I do. So hopefully people will enjoy this. And I enjoyed writing it.
The fact that you've injected some humor into this book, it makes it even more relatable. Have you received any criticism from that by very holy people?
Strangely enough, I have not.
Oh, okay.
Don't take that as a sign that you're supposed to criticize me, but yeah. So, fortunately, so far, so good, Jim.
That's great. And the book is available, I'm assuming, just anywhere books are sold?
Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. Some Barnes & Noble stores might have it, but it's not terribly expensive. You can also download it for $3.99, which is, I like to read my books on my iPad these days. A lot of people do.
That's great. Well, it's called Jesus Makes Salsa by the Seashore, Fresh Approach Bible Studies from Troy Dungan, as you can consider yourself a part of that group that was in the conference room at WFAA Channel 8 with Troy every Wednesday for the Bible study.
That's right. Well, thanks for the opportunity to plug the book.
You betcha. Thanks so much for doing that and for bringing it.
Yeah.
Now, of course, as we said at the top of the show, Troy has been our guest gourmet for the month in fine company. I mean, you followed on the heels of Dottie Griffith, and Paula Lambert is coming up in our next series of programs.
Good company.
But we've chosen you because not only are you well respected and full of great information, you also are very reliable and show up on time, well trained all those years.
I'm certainly full of something.
But you and your beautiful wife, Janet, have spent most of your marriage traveling to what 99% of the world would call exotic destinations.
Well, to some degree, we do love to travel. I told her when we got married that we were going to travel a lot. She said she'd drag her feet. She does, but that's only because, as you know, Vicki, it's hard for a lady to get ready to go somewhere. It's much better for us to go somewhere just the two of us, because if we go with one or two other couples, then she has to carry a lot more clothing. She doesn't care if I see her in the same outfit every day, but you can't have the girls see in the same outfit every day. But we do enjoy traveling very much.
Do you have a top 5 or top three places you love to go to?
I knew we were going to talk about hotels and places to eat, so I made a few notes in case my mind goes blank, which at my age it
Mine
could.
does that all the time.
So I've put down 8 places, and what do you know, 6 of them are in Italy.
How about that? So Italy proves to be just about your favorite destination.
It is, and people say, where in Italy? I say every place. But and another thing, I was going to write this book before I wrote this one, called Cheap Hotels, Expensive Bars. But again, my chief advisor, Janet, said, after you've written this Bible study book, you can't write a book called Cheap Hotels, Expensive Bars. So that maybe is off the table. Okay. I'm not sure about that. But we can talk about that here, because we don't like cheap hotels, but we like good value hotels. And we don't like to go and stay at the big American brand name hotels. Went to Paris a few years ago with some friends. They had a lot of points, so they put us up at one of the big brand name hotels on the Champs-Élysées. very near the Arc de Triomphe. It's just like being in America.
Yeah.
What we like is, let me just start with Paris, if I
Okay.
may. Paris, our little hotel is called the Muguet. The Muguet is in the 7th arrondissement. It's very near Napoleon's tomb, walking distance to the Eiffel Tower. I think there may be 30 rooms. The lady who owns the place speaks English. It's a little broken French, not enough to get by, but they're very nice to you there. So we love that place. The Muguet is a nice little hotel, reasonably priced. Another thing about the big American brand hotels, they're quite expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And they're also in neighborhoods like the Champs-Élysées. You walk outside that hotel and have a hamburger on the street right there in front of the hotel. It's maybe 30 euros. That's a lot of money for a hamburger. Now, you don't want to eat that too many hamburgers in Paris. Obviously, there are better things to eat. But very near the Muguet is a little street called Rue Claire, which is all shops and restaurants and cheese shops and wine shops. And any little restaurant on that street is good. But you walk about another 6 blocks to a restaurant called La Fontaine du Mars, the Fountain of Mars. And regardless of what you think about the Obamas, they had dinner there and they liked it. We've had dinner there a number of times, and we think it's just great. So those are our two places in Paris.
Ah, okay. We tried to go to that restaurant, by the way, the last time we were in Paris, and it was always the wrong time of day. We were there too early, and of course, people do in Europe dine a lot later than we do here in the United States.
Absolutely. We were in Barcelona with another couple. One night we went to dinner, and they said, well, you'll have to have dinner indoors because the terrace closes at midnight. We got there for dinner at 11 o'clock. Well, in Barcelona, cocktail hour at 8:30, dinner maybe 10:30 or 11, and you take a nap in the afternoon. That's a civilized way to do things.
That is. There are studies being done now that say that if more of the world lived by the siesta custom, it would be a much safer, more peaceful, happier world.
You go to dinner in Barcelona at 8 p.m., well, first of all, it's probably not open yet.
Yeah.
But if the restaurant is open and there's anybody in there, you can bet they're from Keokuk, Iowa. Not to put down Keokuk, Iowa, but you're from somewhere in America where people have dinner at 6. Like our kids, our daughter.
Where's the buffet, Martha? I know it's here somewhere.
Our daughter and son-in-law live in Yukon, Oklahoma, a suburb of Oklahoma City. You turn off I-40 on Garth Brooks Boulevard to get to their house. You go to dinner in Oklahoma City at 6 o'clock, it's crowded. If you went at 8 o'clock, well, it might not be crowded, but the restaurant might be closed.
It might be closing. They'll be looking at you. Would you hurry up and eat so we can go home, pal?
So we kind of like the European style.
Yeah. Well, you've piqued my interest with your 6 selections from Italy because...
Let me go with the one other place before we go there.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because the other place is London.
All right.
Okay, now London, our hotel there is a place called Sanctuary House.
Okay.
Sanctuary House is about 2 blocks from Westminster Abbey. That's an area where there are not really very many hotels. It's not in the West End, not in the theater district. It's very near Scotland Yard if you need the police. You walk out the door to the right, 2 blocks, Westminster Abbey. You walk out the door to the left, 1 block, it's the tube stop, where you can get pretty much anywhere in London you want to go with one change. Now, this restaurant that place is a pub. It's called the Sanctuary. Well, the Sanctuary is the building next door to Westminster Abbey, so it's named after that. But it's one of 7 hotels in London that Fuller's Breweries owns. In each one of these Fuller's hotels, there is a pub on the ground floor. But Sanctuary House is a wonderful little hotel, again, about 30, 40 rooms, double glazed windows and air conditioning, so you can keep the windows closed and the traffic noise doesn't bother you. So, and then where do you go there? Well, in London, the neatest thing to do is go to the theater and have after-dinner supper. Don't you think so? I mean, that's just great. I mean,
Perfect.
You get a tea in the afternoon. You got a tea at the Ritz or Brown's, and both those are just wonderful. So you have a pretty substantial little snack there in the afternoon. Then, after theater, the place to go, which has been there forever and still the best place, the Ivy. You know the Ivy? The Ivy, I think it's in St. Martin's Lane.
Okay.
It's very near the West End. It's easy to get there after the theater. You could walk. It's hard to get a cab after the theater. But the Ivy is a place where frequently you'll see people you've just seen in shows, and they come in for their after dinner or after theater supper. And I remember several times there having at midnight Eggs Benedict and champagne. That's a pretty good pairing, Eggs Benedict and champagne.
I think you're right about
So
that.
yeah, there are other places besides Italy, but those are the 2 that I thought of. The rest of the spots, we go to Italy a lot. We'll be in Italy briefly in September. We're going to be on a cruise. We wanted to do the Dalmatian coast, which we have not done. And this cruise stops at, It's Dubrovnik and Koper and Split, so we get to see those. And we also spend the night on the ship in Venice, where we've been enough times, but you can't go to Venice too much. And then it comes back to a couple of the Greek islands and winds up in Rome, where we'll spend a little more time there. But okay, so places to go in Italy. I'll tell you what, I got some places for you there. Venice.
Venice, okay,
Venice
start there.
is my favorite place. People hate Venice or love Venice.
But you love it.
It's too crowded. The canals smell. There are too many people there. All of those things are true. It's sinking into the sea. That's another
so
thing
hurry
that's
up
true.
and get there if you're going.
So probably in our lifetimes we're okay.
Yeah.
For our grandkids, it might be a challenge because some of the steps leading down into the lagoon, you can see that there are now 3 steps underwater. Those steps used to be out of water. And the ground floor, the canal level floor, many of the homes there, it can't really be used because when the aqua alta comes, the high water, which comes because of tides in this fall and winter, those ground floors are flooded. But Venice is still a magic place, and even if you stay in one of the nicest hotels, the Daniele, for instance, when the aqua alta, the high water comes up, then they have to put sandbags at the door and issue the rubber Wellington boots to the guests, and the water comes up in the lobby at the Daniele Hotel. So, there are some things about Venice that people don't like, but you get over that. Get over the circumstances and the obstacles. It's a great place. I mentioned the Daniele. Daniele is a fabulous hotel. It's on the lagoon. It's the picture postcard view of the San Maggiore Church. And the bar in the Daniele is the most beautiful bar that I've ever seen. The ceiling's in 4 different very fancy panels. Just a wonderful place to stop. Okay, your martini there is going to be 25 euros. But we're staying 2 doors away from the Daniele at a hotel called the Paganelli. The Paganelli has the same view as the lagoon view rooms at the Daniele, but the price is perhaps an eighth of those lagoon view rooms. Now, there are only 5 lagoon view rooms in the Paganelli Hotel, so you have to make sure you get one of those. The ones in the back, they're okay. But if you're there, you want to wake up in the morning and look out and see the traffic in the lagoon and the San Maggiore Church and so forth. So the Paganelli Hotel was run when we first started going there in 2002 by 2 cousins, the 2 Paganelli cousins. They were older guys at the time, and they've both gone under their rewards now. But it was so fun to talk to them. In fact, I wore this cross on my lapel, and the younger brother, who was probably 80-ish, he said, "Why you wear that cross on your jacket?" And I said, "Well, it's just a little silent testimony of Christianity." He says, "You Catholic?" I said, "No, I'm not Catholic, but we worship the same Jesus, right?" He says, Yeah, we do. So it's a conversation.
There you go.
But you get to know the people that own these hotels. Now, their family, some of the younger members of their family own that hotel now. And if you go to the Paganelli Hotel, ask for the room on the 2nd floor that has 2 windows with a flagpole in between. That is the primo room.
And why is
We've stayed there a number of times. They've changed the numbering systems. I don't know what the number is, but they'll know.
Okay.
They'll know. And then
2nd floor, flagpole.
second floor, and of course, 2nd floor to us, it's we call a 3rd floor.
Right.
That song, London Homesick Blues, that Gary P. Nunn sings, part of it is, "And where is that English girl that promised she would meet me on the 3rd floor? She didn't show up." Well, he was on the wrong floor. They have ground floor, 1st floor, 2nd floor, 3rd floor. So you have to make sure, but it's on what they call the 2nd floor. And then, have I got a restaurant for you? This is the restaurant's over near the Rialto Bridge, but Venice is tight enough that you can walk anywhere. Just get a map. The name of the restaurant is Al Diavolo e l'Acqua Santa, which means the devil and the holy water.
Okay.
How are you not going to like a restaurant called the devil and the holy water?
I think you've got it all bases covered there.
The logo, nice sign out front. There's a photograph of it in my office. It's the devil holding out a cup, and there's this monk pouring wine in it. The devil and the holy water. And when you go there, I've only been there for lunch. The best thing to have is, this is a traditional Venetian restaurant. You have sarde al sour. You have that? You know what it is? That's like sardines marinated in oil and vinegar. And the sardines in Europe, they're not like the ones we get out of the can. They're actually good. So it's sardines marinated in oil and vinegar, served with pine nuts and raisins and sliced raw onions. Mwah. Oh my goodness. This sounds terrible, but it is so good. You can't stand it. The last time we were there 2 years ago, we walk up, we're going to have our sarde al sour. They said, closed Tuesday. It was Tuesday.
Oh, no.
So we had some down the road by the canal, but it wasn't nearly as good. So that's Venice. you have any stories about Venice? Do you like Venice?
I've never been to Venice. That's why I live vicariously through you, Troy.
Oh, take this young man to Venice, Vicki.
Yeah, I need to go.
Stay at the Paganelli and go up the...
We've traveled extensively in Paris and London and to Italy. Vicki more so than I. But all those years in broadcasting, I didn't get as much time off as the guys in TV did. So I didn't.
I was at Channel 8 for 31 years, and over about the last 8 or 10 years, instead of getting a bigger raise, you get more time off.
Yeah.
So I had gotten to the point where I had 9 weeks off, plus the 2 weeks of holidays we had. So I had plenty of time to travel. In fact, recently, one of the fellows that works at Channel 8, Jerry Cadigan, had been there 45 years. So they gave him his own parking place after 45 years. They did a little story at the end of Channel 8 News about this. And Hansen says, well, of course they gave him a parking place. They sure weren't going to give him a raise. Those days are over. And there was some truth.
Yes.
But we digress. But
from the mouth of sports anchors.
Yeah, we have had a chance to travel a lot. And Rome is a place that I don't think you can go to many times.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a fabulous city, obviously so much history. But again, as we talked about with Tom Fleming a couple of weeks ago, and with Stephen Piles as well, it's about where you're going to go to stay and eat.
Mm-hmm.
Pictures, vacation pictures, usually wind up being pictures of people eating and drinking for
Exactly.
some reason.
That is
I
amazing.
remember once we were in Florence, and it was my job to round everybody up. There were 4 couples to go and see the David at the Academy Museum. So we go to see Michelangelo's David. We get in line. We walk in. It's about a 30-minute wait. You stand there. It's just an unbelievable statue. So we finished seeing the David, and it's now about 10:30 in the morning. I said, this concludes the culture portion of today's travel. Now we go to the bar. So you do what you like to do. But so you've been to Rome, right?
Yes, we have.
You have favorite places in Rome?
Again, that was a one-day trip, if you can believe it or not.
Well,
not nearly long enough. I need to get out more.
Well, Rome, again, the hotels there. We stay at a hotel called Hotel Madrid. Mm-hmm. Of course, it's in Rome, but it's called the Madrid.
And again, we stayed in an apartment when we were there. So.
And that's another good way to go, especially if you go with another couple or two. We frequently rent apartments, but this time we'll be by ourselves. The Madrid is very near the Spanish Steps. That's a great neighborhood. That's our hood in Rome, because so many restaurants are in there. It's so good. There's a restaurant called Nino. Nino especially is bean soup. How good could that be? But it is so good that you can't stand it. And a friend of ours, who's another Martha Stewart, has tried to duplicate that recipe. Cannot be done. But Rome, the place to go in Rome, the Madrid. Okay, the Madrid's a small hotel, again, maybe 20, 30 rooms. We first went there in 2002. The desk clerk is a guy named Fulvio. Fulvio, I found out in making my reservations this year, he's the GM now. Fulvio's been there all that time, and he's the general manager. So you walk out of the Hotel Madrid, and you walk about 2 blocks down the street to a restaurant called Trente Quattro, 34. I won't tell you anything else about it, except it's just a very good restaurant. If there are 2 of you, you can sit outside, and people and cars mingle in streets about 4 feet wide, and it's fine. So that's where you go in Rome. And then, there's another place. Most people in this country do not make spaghetti carbonara correctly. They want to put, it'll say with cream sauce or Alfredo sauce. Now, spaghetti carbonara is, as you know, pasta that you've cooked with some pancetta, and then while it's all hot, you drop the raw egg that you've scrambled up, and the egg is cooked by the pasta. Then you sprinkle some pecorino or Parmigiano on it. But you don't have to do anything but that. When we first found this place, it's called Le Grand Café Roma.
Okay.
It's a gelato shop, essentially, but they also do food. And it's in a street. If you walk down the main concourse toward the typewriter monument, the wedding cake monument, it's just to the side of that big wedding cake monument. And you sit out on the street, and the table's kind of crooked because the street's crooked, but that's okay. You just hold on to your wine. So Grand Café Roma. A couple of good places for you, huh?
This is amazing, and I would hope if you would be willing, perhaps you'll share this list with me, and I can put it up on the wineanddinedfw.com website.
I will send it to you. It's in a form that I can do that for you right now.
Good, and then so we'll get these up for you. Something else that you are noted for, or perhaps notorious for, is your knowledge of great BYOB restaurants.
Yes, indeed.
Here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
In the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We have a number very close to us, one of which you have been to with us. You and Vicki joined us at Ephesus, a Mediterranean place. They, for a while, had their own wine, but they let you bring wine with a small corkage fee. I was there again last week. It just says BYOB, and he didn't charge me corkage. But Cengiz Yemrutis from Istanbul runs this place. It's in the Meadow Central Shopping Center, in the Tom Thumb Center. It's a wonderful Turkish restaurant, and you don't have to go to Turkey to get the food. It's just very, very good. And Cengiz is, he's kind of like a hummingbird. If you remember him, he just flits here, there, and yonder. And I think about, it said that a hummingbird, when it rests, a hummingbird's heart beats 1,500 times a minute. When a hummingbird's excited, it explodes. And I think that might happen to Cengiz at any time. So there's that.
Okay.
Then we have one that's very near us. It's 3 blocks from our house. It's called Del Testardo. It's in, I think, what eventually became from a Hallmark shop to a bar to whatever. But this is a very good little Italian restaurant. It's also BYOB. The people that run it, the lady is from Amarillo, and the guy is from Calabria, on the toe of the boot in Italy. They met in Rome at some point, some time back. She's very American. He's very Italian. His name is Vinicio, but everybody just calls him Chef Vince. But his claim to fame is somehow working his way up from Calabria, he got to Rome. And as a fairly young man, he worked in the kitchens of the Vatican cooking for Pope John Paul II.
Amazing.
And he said Pope John Paul II was not only a really good pope, he was a really good guy.
Well, that's good. Yeah, it's good to know.
And Chef Vince knows how to make spaghetti carbonara. You don't have to go all the way to Rome to get it. It's a good place. So that's in our neighborhood as well. We have a restaurant that used to be in an old Taco Bueno. It's called Roman Cucina, which is a wonderful place. It's not BYOB, but full bar, but it's reasonable. And they have wonderful food there. That's very close to us. We live near Hillcrest and Arapahoe. All these things are within 10 minutes, some within 5 minutes. There's a place called Amore. The lady is from Albania. Many restaurants, Italian restaurants, are Albanians. Well, she's been here for 15, 20 years. She spoke no English when she got to this country. She put kids through college, and she owned a couple of restaurants. Hard work still gets you ahead.
Yeah. And so that just underscores that it pays to shop around, to do some exploration.
Yes.
Don't go to the chain restaurants. I'm not saying you ignore them. I mean, they're fine in their place, but find that neighborhood mom and pop, and you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely.
And Troy, I want to thank you so much. In fact, I want to tell you a story about your book, Jesus Makes Salsa by the Seashore. I had a little car trouble the other day, and I wasn't sure what it was going to lead to, how much expense I was going to be out of. So I dropped the car off at the shop, and they were going to do some evaluations, and that usually means the price is going up by the minute. But I nonetheless, I took Lyft home and was there and was planning for the show today, and I was reading your book, Jesus Makes Salsa by the Seashore. And about that time, the phone rang, and the guy on the other end says, "Hello, Jim. Yeah, this is Moses at Firestone."
Whoa.
I said, "You're kidding. I'm reading about Jesus, and Moses calls me. This is a good sign."
That is a good sign.
So thank you. Again, tell us where your book is available, and thank you for writing it.
Amazon.com is probably the best place. Possibly Barnes & Noble. If they don't have it, they could get it for you. And a list of other restaurants and hotels. I will send this to you as soon as we're done here so you can put it up on your site, because we can also tell them where to go in Bellagio and Florence and Padua.
That's great. And please come back and tell us more about your travel exploits.
Love
and I'll
to.
try and take a few between now and then, too, so that we can actually converse instead of me just sitting here taking notes rapidly.
So good to be with you and Vicki. We've been friends for a long time, and it's always a pleasure.
Well, my friend, thank you for taking the time and for preparing, as you always do so beautifully, to be with us as this month's guest gourmet. You're just amazing.
Thank you. Ciao.
Ciao. And my dear, sweet wife, Vicki Briley-White, is along with us for another Savor the Flavor wine segment. What you got?
Well, have you ever thought about getting canned? I mean, canned wine. That's what we're going to be checking into, canned wine and ways to keep your wine cool in the heat.
I think canned wine is catching on because millennials are not as hung up on tradition, and they're just looking for something that works for them, that gives them wine, which they enjoy as a drink and a beverage either after work or with dinner. And then also, they're not hung up on needing to have the cork and all of that sort of stuff. And this is just a really easy way to just open a can and pour yourself a glass or two and you're done. And the next time you feel like wine, a few days later, you've got another can to open and everything's fresh. So it's just practical. It's versatile because you can carry it anywhere you want to go. And you can enjoy wine if you're a wine lover and not a beer drinker. There's a lot of drinking trends that are going on right now. And so millennials are into canned wine because if they feel like wine that day as opposed to a Moscow Mule or a wonderful craft beer, then they can just open a can, have a glass or two, whatever size that can offers, because there's various sizes, and enjoy it. And then next day have something else, and they're not worried about that they've spent $20 on a bottle of wine and it's only half drunk and it's not going to be as good the next time they go around. So it's practical, it's fun, it's easy, and it's recyclable. Rath got into canned wines at the strong suggestion of our distributor in New York. They could hardly keep canned wines in inventory because of the business they were doing in Brooklyn, which is where a lot of millennials live. So we looked at it, and we had some grapes that were being sold that we weren't using, and we were selling as fruit, and we thought, why not capture that and offer something of really high quality, because we didn't see that out in the marketplace at that time. So these are grapes that are grown exclusively from our small 70-acre estate vineyard, and we take the same care that we take with our bottled wines. So in fact, the canned wine is actually a bargain, relatively speaking, in terms of what you get per ounce and all that sort of stuff. And so with Sauvignon Blanc, that is made by our same winemaking team with the same approach, and we put it in a can instead of a bottle. This is our Sauvignon Blanc, and its AL13 is the periodic table symbol for aluminum. It's sort of our attempt at humor, wine humor. And we just call it Al Sauvignon Blanc. But since you can't take canned wine too seriously, even though we're serious about the quality, the whole idea is just it's a fun way to enjoy wine. Why not have fun with the fact that it's in an aluminum can? And that's how it got its name. This has a little cap that snaps on and off, and you can order those from Amazon. You get a whole bag of them for $8. And so people who use cans frequently have them, really, they're made for soda pop to keep the fizz in, carbonated drink. But it works really well. But mostly, this is just 2.5 glasses, so finishing that isn't as much of an issue as it is a whole bottle of wine. We've been asked many times by our distributors to add other wines into, offer other varietals. And right now, we want to focus on doing one thing and doing one thing really well. And down the road, who knows? But this is only our second vintage, and I think that it's better to just do one thing and do it well. Canned Sauvignon Blanc, our Al Sauvignon Blanc, retails for around $7.99 a can. And most of it is sold like craft beer. It does come packaged in the little 4-pack holder, but in most locations they take that off, and you really just buy 1, 2, or all 4, as many cans as you decide you want. And you can mix and match. And so $7.99 seems to be a good benchmark price. Much less than that, and you start to wonder about quality. Much more than that, and you start to wonder why you're not buying a bottle of wine. And you can find Rath in the Dallas-Fort Worth area at Green Spot over on Buckner Boulevard. Central Market on Lover's Lane has it. Flamingo Wine and Liquor over off of, like in the Turtle Creek area over off of Cedar Springs has it. And Veritas Wine Bar over off of Henderson has it. So we're sort of got some convenient spots all across town that you can pop in and get a few cans and enjoy them for yourself. Canned wines got popular in general because aside from what we've already spoken about, the millennials, not being hung up on tradition and looking for something that was just ease of use, they are so versatile. There's so many times that you're in a place where you don't really, a glass of wine is not accepted or appropriate. And I think back to my college days when everybody was throwing cans of beer in a cooler. I would have killed to have some cans of wine to add because I was never a beer drinker. One of our best markets in the United States is Jackson Hole, Wyoming, because that's where a lot of people stop and outfit themselves and stock up on food before they head into the Grand Tetons or over into Yellowstone. And so it just flies off the shelf there because you put it in, you can pack it, you can chill it down as needed. If you're camping, you can put it in a stream, and then you can recycle it back out. So it's just complete ease of use. If you're a poolside and you have a big party, you might not want people carrying glasses of wine around for somebody to kick over. Cans of wine are just perfect for that. So there's lots of uses for it. And our cans are lined on the inside, which helps keep them colder on the inside because there's a little pocket of air. And the wine never really touches aluminum either, by the way, because I've been asked that by several people. It keeps everything pristine, cold, and fresh until you crack it open and are ready to just enjoy it.
Hey, I'm Jim White. Thank you so much for joining us on Wining and Dining with Jim White. It's the program devoted to introducing you to the people behind the eats and drinks you love. Remember, if anybody asks you what you're making for dinner, tell them reservations.